Hey everybody, I hope everybody's doing well, staying healthy and safe. Wanted to check in with another update prior to our next youth check-ins, which we'll have on Thursday and Friday. Thursday from 2 to 3 and Friday from 1 to 2 like we did last week. Hadn't heard any other feedback about times that were better for folks, so we'll just proceed with the same schedule we had last week. We will be looking ahead in the book of Philippians in the Bible. We've been studying that for the last few weeks. We are looking at the book of Philippians, just kind of giving you a quick recap. We're looking at this book because it really talks about how we are to live in circumstances that are difficult and how we are to make sure that we have our priorities straight even when we're in tough circumstances, that regardless of what might be surrounding us, that the most important thing is the love of God and how that love is offered to us and how we as grateful recipients of God's love in Jesus Christ are able to obey and to share that love with other people, even when things are hard. The Apostle Paul is the person who wrote this, writing it to the church in the city called Philippi. Paul was in prison when he wrote this letter, and the church at Philippi had sent prayers for Paul's well-being, as well as they sent their friend Epaphroditus that we'll hear a little bit more about at the end of chapter 2 here today. Paul talks about him specifically. So Paul writes this letter in response to the ways that the church of Philippi has really cared for him, even from a distance. We read in chapter 1 about the courage that Paul has found through God, even when he is in prison, and how he is emphasizing that to the church at Philippi and helping them to reprioritize what's important. That even in the midst of suffering, even in the midst of circumstances that are really, really hard, that God is still present, God's love is still for us and with us, and that we're still called to share that with other people, whoever may be around us at the time. At the beginning of chapter 2, we looked at this last week. We talked about Paul's themes of unity and humility, that we are united through Christ, that unity doesn't necessarily mean that we are exactly the same, but it does mean that we are united as disciples of Jesus Christ, and that unity is very, very important for us. But also humility. This is something that Christ himself displayed, particularly in how he humbled himself, even though he was and is God, that he humbled himself to become human, and he remained obedient in proclaiming the message, the good news of salvation through Christ to all, even humility, obedience to the point of going to the cross. The leaders, the religious and the political leaders of the time wanted Jesus to stop proclaiming this message, but he persisted because that's exactly what he was called to do. And because of his obedience to the message of the gospel, the authorities of the day arrested him and, of course, crucified him. However, the great news that we experienced last Sunday in Easter, that we hopefully experience every day, the thing that gives us hope and courage is that Christ rose again, that death does not have the final say, and that even when humanity cannot understand the love that God gives us, that misunderstanding doesn't have the final say, that death doesn't have the final say, that sin doesn't have the final say, that God's love is still available for us. So we go forward today, this week rather, looking at Philippians chapter 2, beginning at verse 12. We'll really focus on verses 12 through 18. Chapter 2, verses 19 through the end, which is chapter 30, really talks about some of the background of Epaphroditus, the person that the church at Philippi sent to Paul. And so we'll read that, but that's kind of something that we've already talked about. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, and I invite you to listen carefully, maybe read along with me, and hear what really stands out to you. Maybe jot a couple of things down about what stands out to you about what Paul is saying. Maybe jot down some questions that you have, And then when we check in with one another again on Thursday from 2 to 3 or on Friday from 1 to 2 on Zoom, I'll be sending that information shortly, you'll be able to bring that feedback to our discussion, okay? So we're going to read from Philippians 2, starting at verse 12. I'll be reading from the CEB Bible that we had for confirmation. Therefore, my loved ones, just as you always obey me, not just when I am present, but now even more while I am away, carry out your own salvation with fear and trembling. God is the one who enables you both to want and to actually live out his good purposes. Do everything without grumbling and arguing, so that you may be blameless and pure, innocent children of God, surrounded by people who are crooked and corrupt. Among these people you shine like stars in the world because you hold on to the word of life. This will allow me to say on the day of Christ that I haven't run for nothing or worked for nothing. But even if I am poured out like a drink offering upon the altar of service for your faith, I'm glad. I'm glad with all of you. You should be glad about this in the same way. Be glad with me. I hope in the Lord Jesus to send Timothy to you soon, so that I may be encouraged by hearing about you. I have no one like him. He is a person who genuinely cares about your well-being. All the others put their own business ahead of Jesus Christ's business. You know his character, how he labors for me, for the gospel, like a son with his father. So he is the one that I hope to send as soon as I find out how things turn out here for me. I trust in the Lord that I also will visit you soon. I think it is also necessary to send Epaphroditus to you. He is my brother, co-worker, and fellow soldier, and he is your representative who serves my needs. He misses you all, and he was upset because you heard he was sick. In fact, he was so sick that he nearly died. But God had mercy on him, and not just on him, but also on me, because his death would have caused me great sorrow. Therefore, I am sending him immediately, so that when you see him again, you can be glad and I won't worry. So welcome him in the Lord with great joy, and show great respect for people like him. He risked his life and almost died for the work of Christ, and he did this to make up for the help you couldn't give me. My friends, this is the word of the Lord. And again, I invite you to share with me when we check in on Thursday or Friday your thoughts, your questions, what stands out to you. And really, what I'm hoping that we can do is figure out, how does this apply to us right now in our situation? What does it mean for us to take these words and live them right now? I am praying for all of you. I continue to pray for all of you and for your families. You all have shared your prayer requests over these last few weeks, and especially in response to the question we had in our check-in last week about who specifically you want to pray for. And I've been keeping those individuals and your family members and all those others in my prayers. And I hope that you're praying for my mother and for so many others as well. Prayer is so important right now that we are able to communicate directly with God what our needs are, and know that God hears us and knows then that you know that God is present with us now. And I look forward very much to checking in with you guys over these next couple of days. All right, be safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, and I look forward to seeing you. Bye.